I believe that we are live. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Well, welcome to the very first Forward Ever Empower Hour Blab. That's quite a mouthful. And I'd like to officially thank the founder of Forward Ever, Kimberlee Williams, and Dr. Jeffrey Robinson. How should we refer to you today, Dr. Robinson?
That's fine. That's fine.
Dr. Robinson is fine. So we will be talking to Ms. Kimberlee Williams and Dr. Jeffrey Robinson.
Well, since we're getting technical, it's Mrs. Kimberlee Williams.
Oh, okay.
All right. Get it right.
And I'm Mrs. Stovell. So, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us first and foremost for our first Blab. And this morning we're going to spend about an hour with these two wonderful local change makers, and we're going to invite. We're hoping to really get everyone excited about the kind of conversations that we're going to be having at least monthly. And I wanted to start this conversation this morning with both our founder, Kimberlee Williams, and Jeff Robinson, Dr. Robinson, because of this wonderful National Innovation Report that he and his team produced last year. So I'd like to begin first by letting me talk about the rules of engagement. The way Blab works is that there is 3 people that can be seen right now, and then there's an open seat that I can unlock at any time for someone to join the conversation. The conversation this morning will be about urban innovation, entrepreneurship, buy local, localism, basically, and opportunities to get involved in the movement that Forward Ever is. Basically, we are the movement of localism in our community and giving you an opportunity to get involved. So I'd like to start by saying that for those that may not know who Forward Ever is, we've been around since December of 2012. We launched in December of 2012. And after 3 years, we've accomplished quite a bit. First and foremost, we were just recognized by Prudential as one of their 20 stories of strength for 2015 in commemorating their 140-year history here in Newark, New Jersey, as well as highlighting their the building of their tower that they just built last year. So we're very happy about that. We have worked very hard over the last 3 years to be the catalyst of change and to change the conversation in our community from and shifting the conversation, I should say in our community, to what it is and why localism is important. And having said that, I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to start with Dr. Robinson and ask him to share with us a little bit about the National Urban Innovation Report that he led. And I started out, I read this report and I was enamored. Like, I had read it last month or so, but then when I read urban innovation and the definition of it as a break from common practice to develop long-lasting transformations in communities and neighborhoods and cities. So could you expand upon that and talk to us a little bit about what this report means to us all and how it's going to affect us here in Newark specifically?
Well, yeah, so thank you for having me on this Blab today. I mean, it's my first time doing Blab. I've done some others types of video conferencing, and also I'm glad to be on here today. The Urban Innovation report came out of an idea that we had a couple of years back to think about who was doing interesting and innovative work in urban areas to solve problems. As you probably know, and other folks may know, I have lots of experience in talking to social entrepreneurs, and when I talk to these folks, they are exciting, they are innovative, they are addressing problems, But my bigger question was, how do we get more of these social entrepreneurs to do what they do? I mean, Kimberlee Williams, a couple of years back, we gave her an award as our New Jersey Urban Social Entrepreneur of the Year. And, when I think about what she's done in Newark and what other people like her are doing in their cities, they are making a difference and doing it in different and unique ways. They're leveraging different kinds of resources. The tradition in a lot of cities is to use politics as their way of making change. And maybe that is a way of making change, but it's not the only way. And what I know from my experiences in Newark and other places in New Jersey and doing the national scan that we did for this report, we know that there are people who think differently about what to do in their cities, whether they're doing something in urban farming or thinking about how the sharing economy is different or employing people who are difficult to employ. They're figuring out ways to address the inequities in our cities. They're connecting the dots in different ways so that people have a way to live that is meaningful, that is less about inequality and more about how we can work together to build education systems and food systems, health systems, systems of the economy that work. So that's the genesis of the report. I mean, I can go on and on talking about it. I don't know if there was something specific you wanted me to touch on, but I'm really excited just to talk about it.
Well, the specific thing that I was looking for was just the various parallels. We have so many things going on here in our community, and people can get plugged in so many different ways. And we're going to have a call to action, which is, Kimberlee's going to do that call for us. But specifically, there were so let me just go about the study talked about poverty alleviation, entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship, MWBE, financial services for marginalized communities, education, workforce development, urban policy, and environmental justice, of course. That just jumped out at me, given what we're going through right now in Flint, Michigan. And then, of course, the report that came out that said that's not the only community. And then they named some communities here in New Jersey, and we happen to be one of them. So how do we all translate the report? What are our takeaways? How do we jump in and get involved if there's some place for us to do so? That's what I'd like to discuss.
Okay, well, I got you covered then. Well, so one of the interesting things that we did with this report is we had solicited from some of the organizations that are involved in these kind of efforts around the country. We worked with Bali and some of the fellows from other organizations and asked them, who's doing some interesting work in cities. And to make a long story short, we came up with a list of over 100 different organizations, individuals, social ventures, companies from all around the country. And then we had some criteria to sort of narrow down what the final set would be. Because what we ended up doing was highlighting 8 different case studies, which we think of as being exemplars of what kinds of urban innovation we're talking about. How do we narrow it down? Well, we were looking at different impact areas. We tried to understand their approach to making positive social impact. We were looking at the scope and the scale and their measurement efforts. We were looking at their ability to replicate in other places. And the last one was we were really interested in how to, what their ability was to make a sustained and sustainable impact. Now, we went through, again, this winnowing process to get down to 8. And I think, if I jump to that question about, takeaways, one of the things we realized about these 8 and where they were was that the cities where they were, doing their work, those cities had some characteristics. And to me, for the people who are interested in how do I encourage more of this kind of work in my city, yes. I think there are 3 takeaways. The first is that the cities that really stood out in this process, and it includes places like San Francisco and the Oakland area, sort of that Bay Area of California, and
Ohio.
There's a lot going on there. These cities had a funding environment that allowed there to be money available for that earliest stage, that seed stage, incubating, and then to support those ideas all the way through to its fruition. The second thing that was interesting about those places is that those cities had technical assistance. They had an infrastructure of people who could support those innovators in their cities. And then the third thing I thought was that these cities were interesting because they all these places where we saw there were multiple examples of these kind of urban innovators had an interesting and a significant history of both activism and entrepreneurship. That when you had those two things in combination, those places, the ideas didn't just get sort of launched and then die. No, these places figured out ways to harness both the activism and the entrepreneurship, and then it yielded some of these really transformative types of solutions. So I thought those were some things were takeaways from this. Now, we got 8 examples. I could talk about any of those 8 if you like, but I just think those are some things that places, including Newark, where we all do our work, need to think about in terms of how do we get more of these urban innovators to do, and to encourage them to be able to do their work in the communities where we need the work done.
Yeah. Kim, jump in there for me, if you will, because when he named those 3, I looked at those 3, that was the last part of the report. And I said, well, we check every box. We definitely have a history. We're the 3rd oldest city in the nation. We have 15 or 20 different tech assistance kinds of organizations in the community and programs. And we have a huge funding or a huge anchor institution. I think we have 13 anchors, if that, I think that's what the ICIC report suggested. So we check every box. How do we make it happen? Kim's going to.
So, wow, I answered the how do we make it happen question. I think Newark certainly has all the ingredients to make a really beautiful, beautiful cake. We have eggs, we have the flour, we have the sugar, as you just said. But what we don't have is necessarily the coordination. What stuck out to me in that there needs to be early stage funding, technical support, and a history of activism, we certainly have those ingredients. But how they're applied and mixed together and coordinated in a way so that we actually get the outcome that all of these ingredients say that we can achieve, that's quite another thing. I think that while there is funding, I think in Newark in particular, there's quite a bit of funding available for early stage businesses, but for businesses that are, more than 5 years old, looking to scale and what have you, there aren't necessarily the same kind of variety of financial services available to entrepreneurs. Fortunately, what we do have just recently an announcement in Newark from the Audible organization is like this new investment fund for technology and investing in early stage technology entrepreneurs. Since Newark is really the epicenter of New Jersey, you would think that our market would demand that we have more types of investment vehicles like that. But hopefully, that is the beginning of the trend. I forget what that fund is called in particular. If either one of you can recall what the name of it is, I think it would be helpful to our audience.
Yeah,
but essentially
Newark Venture Partners.
Newark Venture Partners, and it's a $50 million fund to invest in technology and what have you. And I think it's those kinds of strategically developed sources of capital that is certainly needed in Newark. And once we have those ingredients for each stage of development of a business in a very coordinated and very focused and intentional way, I think that we'll see the type of innovation that Dr. Robinson referenced in his report of examples of success around the country. But I think we'll see that happen even more so in Newark once we really support each phase of that recommendation that you said. Coordination of funding, coordination of the technical support, and even, I think, broader learning about activism as it relates to our historical activism, but even activism as it relates to social entrepreneurship and what have you.
Absolutely. And also, too, the other thing, we not just go through this huge technical sort of revamping? Is that part of what we were talking about, where we have this big, huge Wi-Fi? That was part of the pie too, right, Jeff? Well, in terms of having an infrastructure that can support advanced technology.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, that helps tremendously, because that, gives your entrepreneurs access to the community and vice versa. But I got to echo what Kimberlee said. I think part of the challenge, in particular for the social entrepreneurs in Newark and class broadly in the rest of the state, is that the funding for the early stage, sometimes that's there. I would hesitate to say that it's there as much for the social entrepreneurs as commercial or traditional entrepreneurs, but it's not just giving those funds to get started. It's how do you keep that going? And so, yeah, infrastructure is important for that. But you've got to really think about how you support those who are just on the cusp of being that breakout business or social venture that's going to make an impact. That's where I see the shortfalling for this area. I think the folks in New York City or Philadelphia, they have access to some different pots. They have some different networks that are going on there. But we need to bring a bit more of that back into Newark in particular. And I know there's different efforts around this, but this is a key piece. I would agree with you, though. Newark has the ingredients for the cake, so let's figure out how to make that cake. That's bake
right. Is there? So I have a bunch of. So there's one initiative I'm very familiar with that is being managed through the Institute of Ethical Leadership, where they're going to be launching opportunities for huge projects. And this particular cohort that they will build will identify with the various key players in the community, if you will. So there are big projects going on through the Newark Alliance or Forward Ever, the Cube School. Then what will happen is that this cohort will identify those projects, and then they will select the project. And these particular people in this cohort will also be aligned with people in the funding community that can fund projects they recommend. It's also about making sure that everyone is engaged, and there's not necessarily one place to get all this information right now, which brings me to Mrs. Williams, so she can talk to us a little bit about the Newark Business Hub and Media Hub and some of the things that they're going to be working on, and hopefully this might be part of something they can work on, possibly.
Well, I have to say, when Dr. Robinson was talking about funding being available for social entrepreneurs that are ready to scale and have impact, I think we have about 22 of those in the Newark Business Hub. Essentially, the Newark Business Hub is a program of the Rutgers Business School Center for Urban Entrepreneurship and Economic Development. Thanks for allowing me to talk about it. I am an entrepreneur in residence with Rutgers Business School, and I'm helping Rutgers Business School CUDE to advance the Newark Business Hub, which is essentially an opportunity for creative entrepreneurs to go to scale nationally and internationally, to really grow their business acumen, to have access to an incredible network of contacts and colleagues, and to collaborate toward greater profitability. And we're really at the beginning stages of that program. The actual first class begins on February the 17th, but we've had already some really amazing opportunities to learn through our own Blab series called Let's Grow Power Hour. And next week we'll be premiering our very first public lecture series titled Dissecting the Deal. And it will feature no one other than Andrea Holmes Thompson. She's the CEO of Ace Media Corp. It's going to be an amazing conversation. But to your earlier point, Dr. Robinson, when you mentioned that entrepreneurs in New York, they have different networks, they have access to different, pots of money and contacts and what have you, that's exactly what we're building in the Newark Business Hub. There are two things that I think are really important, and I think that tie in to the whole notion of it being a kind of local movement that we're building. Number one, the Newark Business Hub is built on a principle of BALI, which is the Business Alliance for Local Living Economies. One of BALI's building blocks, if you will, the blocks that you need to be in place to have a truly sustainable community, includes a strong independent media sector. And in Newark, New Jersey, that's what we're looking to build, a strong independent media sector, so that our residents are fully informed, so that our government is held accountable, and so that our businesses can thrive by having opportunities to advertise and to connect to local consumers. So we're really investing in the storytellers in Newark, New Jersey, those people who deal with news and information that really tells and rebrands what is occurring in the city of Newark. We are really proud that we have 22 amazing fellows that do just that, coming from industries such as theater, film, television, public relations, and media and online technology. You name it, we have the storytellers in the Newark Business Hub. So it's really important, as I said, that we have a strong independent media. The second is the spirit of collaboration. From what I understand, and Dr. Robinson, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but what we're experimenting in is the power of collaboration as a tool to increase your revenue.
Yes.
Which is essentially new, if you will, in the arena of technical assistance programs to really focus on the power of collaboration as that lever to increasing your profits. But that, again, is essentially a BALI value. It's a localist value. The fact that together we are stronger than we are separately.
Right.
So it's the same principle behind buying local. It's the same principle around shopping local. It's the same principle essentially just applied to a particular sector, which is the creative class.
Absolutely. And as we said, for whatever, collaboration is the new competition. So it is.
I mean, if you look at it, those companies that are really redefining business right now are those companies that have mastered collaboration and networking.
That's right.
If you think about Uber does not own one taxi, but it has created a collective, a network of people that offer transportation services.
That's right.
If you look at Airbnb, it does not own one bed, not one pillow does it own, but it has created this collaborative of people who are passionate about hospitality, and they're redefining what we find value in as businesses.
Yeah. You know, one of the things when I'm reading through the report here, one of the things that we do very well at For Whatever is bring people together. We've hosted over the last 3 years over 35 events. We co-produce Newark's first citywide TED Talk, TEDx Talk, TEDx Broad Street. And to your point, Kim, you were saying about collaboration and how we basically define collaboration. The one thing that stuck out to me in this report, and I want Dr. Robinson to talk a little bit about that, is recycling. And not just the traditional recycling, but recycling of organic practices. So for example, there's one organization called Mission Asset Fund. Right, and they, if anyone has ever heard of a susu, you know what that basically is doing. It what Kim was just talking about. It's not one person has the money in one particular bank account, but there is this collaborative that functions to fund the collective so that we all can win. And so that's what I'm calling the recycling of our organic practices, because that's what we had to do. In particular, in African-American communities, we had to be very innovative. So now we're almost going back to our roots. And that now is being looked at as being something innovative. And I find that to be extremely exciting. So if you could talk to me a little bit about Mission Asset Fund, the MBA in particular, because I know we spoke last year about the MBA as it relates to possibly being one here in Newark. And then lastly, about how we can, I'm really excited about the Sustainable Economics Law Center and how we can jump on board in our community. And we're at about 11:30 now, so I want to sort of weave that in and leave 15 minutes at the end for any kind of Q&A. And I have some other questions that I'm going to weave in too, so I haven't forgotten anyone.
Okay, so I'll try to make these brief. So you talked about 3 of the 8 different groups that we highlighted in the report, who were sort of national examples of urban innovation. Mission Asset Fund is interesting because you're right on. It's formalizing some of the things that have been done in various ethnic communities for many years, and that's what I love about it. I mean, it's nice that they are kind of highlighting that and they're working with it. But here's the innovative part. What they found was that for many communities, they were doing all of this informal saving. But in the 21st century, a lot of our financial services are driven by credit rating agencies, right? So yes, you got to have a FICO score so that you can go and get a loan for for a house or a car, for other things. So the disconnect was that many of our folks, especially in some of the communities that Mission Asset Fund was working in, weren't getting credit for doing the things that they were doing in an informal way for their savings. So what Mission Asset Fund does is it helps to convert that informal economy activity into something that can be useful for somebody who is living in the San Francisco area or New York or other places where they're doing their work, and allow them to get access to traditional banking and traditional loans. So that's what that's what makes it innovative. It's not that somebody wasn't doing it before, because it was going on. But how do you connect that to what we've got as a very structured financial institution here in the U.S.? And so they've done some great work in connecting communities to those financial resources. The second one you mentioned was based out of Cincinnati, and it's called the Minority Business Accelerator. And the long story short there is this is an initiative that works with minority businesses, minority business enterprises, and helping them get connected to the private companies who need supplier diversity. And there are lots of supplier diversity programs, but what makes this one different is that this program gets the commitments from the private private corporations and engages them in a way that they are making specific goals around their supply diversity that they're held accountable for. And while a lot of programs do everything I said, the last thing they don't do is that part about holding the companies accountable to it. And so over a short period of time, billions of dollars have gone to minority business enterprises who are supplying the valuable services that they provide in the Cincinnati region. And it's gone on for 10 years. It's one of the most successful in the country, and again, a great model. And then the last one you mentioned is the Sustainable Economies Law Center. And they work out of the Oakland hub. Some of you know about the hub, the incubator / co-working spaces that are all around the country. Well, in Oakland, Sustainable Economies Law Center is looking at these issues for the sharing economy, for micro entrepreneurs, for new entrepreneurs, and trying to.
What about the sharing economy? Can you explain that? Does everyone know what that is?
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah, the sharing economy is the name we use for companies like Airbnb and Uber, and those places that are co-working spaces, or who are commercial kitchens, who are allowing multiple groups of entrepreneurs to come in and to collaborate and to work with one another, and to share resources. And that is the key piece, right? Sharing the resources. So there are law and legal issues around all these things. And what this law center is doing in the Bay Area, and now assisting other folks elsewhere, is to think about what are the local laws and rules that are really stopping people from sharing their resources, from being collaboratory in their efforts, and what are the things that are stopping entrepreneurs from being successful. And then they work with those entrepreneurs to develop the casework, the legal casework that is going to support their efforts, as opposed to deny them. And sometimes that means they gotta help them address these with the council members and try to get the council for their city to write up a new law. And sometimes it's a state level. There's a law that's there. One of the things they dealt with was with the food businesses. In California, there was a law, just like we have a law in the state of New Jersey, where if you have a food business, technically you're not supposed to be making food in your home and then selling it. And the city, the folks who were in the Bay Area said, well, why is that law, something that we have here? That's stopping a lot of people from accessing their entrepreneurial potential. And so what they did was they fought the law on behalf of entrepreneurs who wanted to be able to have their own food services. Now, they also put in there a piece about having somebody have a certified, they have their certification, that a food handler and those kind of things, to make it safe, because that's usually what people say is the reason that they have this law. But hey, they figured out a way that could address the health concerns, but also allow the people to be entrepreneurial. Yes. And that's why I take my hat off to them, because what they're doing is setting some precedents that perhaps other urban areas who are trying to unleash the entrepreneurial potential of their cities can follow.
Yes. Okay, so there's a couple questions I want to weave in there. How do we hold corporations accountable and for purchasing from the local businesses here? That's one question. And I really want to frame these questions in the spirit of equitable revitalization as well. So we have the New Jersey Institute of Social Justice right here in Newark, New Jersey. What are 2 or 3 issues that maybe we as a collective want to address, and then we can talk to Ryan Haygood, who's the new leader there, about, so that we can start pushing those forward. A few years ago, they did ban the box. Well, now we have ban the box. Right. So now, are there some issues here that we as a collective, a forward ever movement, can say, we want to put forth these few issues because 20% of our entrepreneurs fall in this category. And we want to address that so that they can have a level playing field. How do we identify some of those issues based on this report, Dr. Robinson, and also jump on board and be ahead of the game for some of the other opportunities that I have seen?
Well, you asked some good questions. Obviously, the key to it is to talk to the entrepreneurs and say, hey, what is it that you're experiencing? What impediments are you experiencing as you put together your companies and as you work in them? I'm not sure what all the issues are. I know some of them. I know one of them is around the challenge of cities being able to hire locally the contractors and consultants that are right there in their city. This has been talked about a lot, right? You have a project come up for the city of Newark or other municipalities in New Jersey, and the challenge is they hire somebody from outside the city, sometimes outside the state, to do things that you would think that a local business could do. And of course, if you hire a local business, there are lots of externalities, the economists like to say. There are a lot of benefits to doing that. The money stays in the city. Now, the New Jersey answer to that is that we have a law that basically doesn't allow you to do some of this preferential, quote unquote, preferential treatment to local businesses. And the New Jersey sort of answer to that has to do with some bad practices from 20 and 30 and 40 years ago. But it's a new day. And the question is, how can you balance that? How can you balance making sure it's a transparent process with the desire to support the local economy? And I know there are other places and other cities that have figured this out, and Newark and other parts of New Jersey. Some of this is a state level law. Needs to reconcile that, and that may be something that our local Institute for Social Justice could give us some insight on. I know it makes sense perhaps for me and others to bring Janelle Orsi from the Sustainable Economies Law Center to come here and to inspire us. Let's find out some of the things she's worked on and see what they've done, and perhaps that'll inspire us to do some things here in the local area.
Inspire us and give us some points of, give us some points of entry. Like, how did she approach it? Sometimes you get an aha moment just from having a conversation with someone that says, I spoke to XYZ person and they were able to speak with someone else who was able to direct us. So we didn't have to jump through 18 hoops. We only had to go through these 2 or 3 steps. That is, not reinventing the wheel. Is very key when you're trying to take a marginalized community to scale in a short period of time, because everyone is saying we want equitable revitalization here in Newark. We don't want the next Hoboken. We don't want the next Brooklyn or the next Harlem. We want Newark. I'm sorry, Kim?
How do we achieve that though?
Yes.
I think, in those examples that you just gave, what comes to mind immediately is kind of low ownership by local people or people that were there before the wave of gentrification came through. How do we encourage more local ownership, whether it's ownership of businesses, ownership of property, and what have you? And one of the questions that I had in terms of how do we answer that question with the help of the Institute for Social Justice is, how do we increase knowledge, if you will, general knowledge about what our great president Barack Obama did in terms of making law out of equity crowdfunding?
Yes.
I think this is supposed to be a move that is supposed to increase community investment and wealth development. And to date, I haven't seen any webinars, calls, or workshops to begin to educate people about this. It's just a tremendous opportunity that our president has put into place. I mean, it really changes the game about what's possible for small businesses to fundraise and for people in the community to actually have ownership stakes in the businesses that support their community. This is a game-changing opportunity.
Yeah, it is. And the key.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say the key to the equity crowdfunding is, we've been doing crowdfunding for a few years, but the laws finally are all in place and regulations in place for the equity piece of this to be set up. It is a great opportunity, and that's something we want to look at a little bit more. I think that's something even the Rutgers Business School will be able to support you on. So let's think about that one.
That would be great. So we're
talking about being ahead of the game. That's a way for New Jersey to be ahead of the game, and certainly Newark to be ahead of the game. I mean, just the possibilities of even having our own exchange for small businesses, like our own Newark Stock Exchange, if you will, for small businesses. I mean, the possibilities are endless. And I'm just super excited about this because I happen to be in the Rose Garden when the president signed that into law. So I'm like, this is something that I'm supposed to champion. So I'm here on that. I'm going to keep going up.
So right now I heard Dr. Robinson said we can get Janelle, I don't remember her last name, from the Sustainable Economics Law Center. Maybe we can get her to come inspire us. And then I heard Mrs. Williams say that she would like to champion, and I'm sure that along with Forward Ever, and possibly other entities that we might be able to identify, really pushing forth the equity crowdfunding and making sure that we are ahead of the game and that we are championing it and understand it and making sure that people take advantage of that. So I'm very pleased to have, to hear that. One of the things that I'm really excited about as it relates to equitable revitalization is commercial opportunities for, or rather co-op opportunities for buying commercial property. So I've been reading all over the nation how groups of people, that, like, this, take for example in Harlem, there were a lot of businesses that were there for 50 years that, had lease after lease after lease, and then all of a sudden their leases weren't renewed. So let's take a lesson from them, and we already know we need to purchase, right? So if there are some opportunities for us to purchase, but we can't collect, I can't go down to a building, I can't go identify a building and say, oh yeah, let me write you a check for $2 million. But I might be able to identify or five, or one, but I can identify, based on the work that we've done in this community, hundreds of opportunities and lots of entry points for people that might want to be in a collaborative situation where we can collectively purchase a building and then identify how we want to change that building into something that represents Newark. How do we do that?
Yeah, that's the next sort of level of collaboration. And what I applaud for Forward Ever and the Newark Hub, Business Hub, and other efforts is that you're getting frankly, you're getting entrepreneurs who would normally work independently to work together. And if you get that first sort of level of working together and collaboration going, the next level is exactly what you described. It's all right, how do we pull these efforts together? How do we pull these companies together and start to figure out how these resources can amass to some more ownership? In the case of large cities, it's often a story of real estate. Who owns the land and the buildings? So if you want to have a voice at that level, it's going to require us all working together, groups of people working together. And so that's why what you are doing is so powerful. Whether we want to call it the sharing economy or collaboration, or just thinking about how a group of entrepreneurs can come together and get something done. All of this is related to how you change the economy in a city.
That's right. And we already know the whole thing of we can't work together, all those myths, we've already dispelled them all over the last 3 years. We have sent 2 people to the White House, just through collaboration. We have people that come to our meetings and they leave, they break off into their own little groups, and next thing you know, they've created something else. So I now wanted to open up the floor for our founder, Mrs. Williams, who's the founder of Forward Ever, and she's a global shapers curator, and she's a part of the Newark Business Hub. I now want her to talk a little bit about inviting folks into our fold as the board president.
Thank you, Karen. So, we've talked about so many wonderful, exciting, innovative, transformative, change-making. You name all of those words, and essentially what we're talking about is starting a movement. And that movement is already underway. And whether you like it or not, you're already in this movement. As a consumer, as an observer, as an actor. But we want you to step in even further and consider volunteering with Forward Ever Sustainable Business Alliance. And if you want to go even further than that, I invite you to consider joining our board. Forward Ever Sustainable Business Alliance is certainly a leader in New Jersey and a trailblazer in Newark, New Jersey. As Karen and Dr. Robinson have already shared, we've had some tremendous accomplishments in a very short period of time, but what we are embarking on in 2016 will make all of that look like we were just warming up. So now's the time for you to be a part of the winning team, be a volunteer, support our events with your free time and with your passion. If you have expertise in sustainability, if you have passion about your community, that's what will qualify you to be on this team. We're looking for volunteers and we're looking for board members. I encourage you all to follow Forward Ever on Facebook, learn more about Forward Ever on the website, which is forwardeverNJ.com. And I meant forward ever, not for whatever, but forward ever. Forward, like as in not backward, forward ever NJ.com, and learn more about the work that we're doing. I plan to host with Forward Ever an information session for volunteers to learn more, for potential board members to learn more about our organization. But you want to get on this now, because we are the winning team. But so you don't want to look like, you're just trying to join the winning team once we've won, right? You want to get in now so that your picture can be a part of, the group picture of the winning team. And I definitely invite you to be a part of our group. We're fun. We work hard. We're passionate. And I know you share our vision, so you might as well get on board.
So one of the things someone just asked, and I was going to end with this, is that one of the most exciting things that we're going to be a part of this year is helping the city launch its Buy Local program. And we're very excited about it. I'm just going to give you a little tidbit about it, but it is a program that gives incentive to people to buy local, shop local, eat local, and play local. And it does that by giving you property tax rebates, credits, and if you're not a homeowner, It lets you participate by just receiving credits, and at the end of the year, you will receive a check. If you're an employee of an anchor, if you just happen to love this community and you're here all the time visiting or eating out or shopping, you too can be involved. If you're a visitor and you're visiting someone, or you're participating in a conference, or you're here for a couple of days on a business trip, you can participate. This is a totally inclusive program. It signs you up by your block and lot. It's a program that I've been working very closely with the founders, and we introduced it to the city. So we are excited. We talked about it last week at our launch and our ribbon cutting. We've talked to all the powers that be, and now we're at the point now we're just waiting to get some things launched. It is the most exciting thing I've found along the way to share with this community. And the average, so let's put it this way. If you are a fly by night, shop local type of person, then you might get a check for $100 at the end of the year. If you are intentional and you shop local at the businesses that will be signed up, you can receive a property tax credit and or a rebate of up to $1,000. And that is a significant savings. So yes, so I again encourage you to go to forwardevernj.com, sign up to be part of the movement. Consider selecting For Whatever as your cause of choice, because we are not just a nonprofit, we're a cause. We're talking about preventing our community from slipping through our hands. And I'm being very nice about that and not using the G word, because we've already had conversations. I'll use the gentrification conversations in the community where the community weren't even invited into the conversation. That's the kind of things that we don't want to happen ever again. We want to frame anything and everything that is going to affect our community. We want to bring it to you, and we want you to be a part of it first and foremost, and we want you to know about it first. So you have to join the movement first and foremost, so you can get all of our emails. You want to follow us, as Kim already invited you to do so, via Twitter and also via Facebook. We have built over the last 3 years over 15 partnerships. I'm going to be speaking to the Newark Community Development Network at the end of this month that basically speaks for over 500 local businesses. We're going to also be working closely with the Newark Merchants Association, which speaks to about 315 bodegas. We are really invested in ensuring that our community is our community. And if you want to be a part of that, you need to be a part of it. Well, any last thoughts from our wonderful the wonderful Dr. Robinson and the wonderful Mrs. Kimberlee Williams? We have about 7 or 8 minutes. I want you guys to jump in. Did I have any particular questions that I missed?
Are there any questions from the folks who are watching us online? You want to open the seat up? I don't know if anybody wants to ask a question.
The seat is open. If somebody wants to join us, I did weave in a lot of the questions to the conversation. I know that someone asked about the report. Is that report available to be shared, Dr. Robinson, with the public?
Yes. And in fact, I posted the link, and I'll post it again on this Blab chat that's going on right now.
And if it's okay, we can post that on our website, and then you'll be directed back to Dr. Robinson, and then learn more about the CUDE School. And also, we'd like you to join the Newark Media Hub too, right, Mrs. Williams?
Yes, NewarkBusinessHub.com, Newark Business Hub on Facebook and on Twitter and on Instagram and whatever other new technology there is, including Blab. As a matter of fact, this afternoon, we'll host our Let's Grow Power Hour at 4 p.m. titled Express Newark Up Close. But Karen, I wanted you to talk a little bit more about even your relationship with Rising Tide Capital and the amazing milestone that you all just had.
Oh, well, we have been, we were actually in the Dryden Mansion. So we created a partnership about a year and a half ago with Rising Tide Capital, which is an award-winning technical assistance company that's based out of Jersey City, New Jersey. They've been around for 10 years. They have actually graduated 1,400 plus people from their community business academy. And we decided that we needed to be partners. We have such a wonderful synergy to offer any entrepreneur that is at whatever stage they may be in their development. And so we started out in the Dryden Mansion. We were lucky enough to move over here to the wonderful, beautiful Packard Lofts here that was built out by Rising Tide, and they invited us to be a part of this wonderful collaborative space. And we are here at 8 East Kenny Street. We had our ribbon cutting last week, Wednesday, where the mayor stayed and made a commitment to localism and said that we even taught him a thing or two about the importance of localism and how it drives much more than just job creation, but a spirit of community. And so that happened last Wednesday, and we're going to be hosting another event. It will be the Greater Newark Economic Corporation, Forward Ever, and Rising Tide Capital in collaboration with the EDC. Don't hold me to the acronym at NJIT. That is going to be on the 17th, and that is encouraging everyone to come out and make sure that you are searchable on Google. It is a Google sponsored. We're collaborating also with Google. So it's going to be, again, for whatever, Rising Tide, Greater Newark Enterprise Corporation, NJIT, and Google inviting you to come out on the 17th. You can find out more about that through signing up through to be a part of our movement as well. We've got about 3 or 4 minutes. Any last thoughts? I think that my last comment will be that I would like to commit to at least having these blabs once a month and possibly more, depending upon the feedback we've got. We've got lots of people online. I'm just really excited about this new platform, an opportunity to talk to everyone, to have an Empower Hour. And I'm going to open it up to ask you all to suggest topics that you might want to hear about. That we can bring to you with other exciting change makers in our community and beyond. Any last thoughts, guys?
No, thanks for having us on today. We hope to be able to do it again sometime. Yes, we will. We will be in contact with you ASAP about our next Blab. Next Empower Hour, and I encourage you to join the 4 p.m. conversation and or to share, if you cannot join, the opportunity with your friends and colleagues. It is going to be at 4 p.m. this afternoon. And that is a Blab. Kim, would you share that information again?
Sure. It's 4 p.m. today on Blab. It's called Let's Grow Power Hour. And what we're talking about today is the really amazing and innovative project led by Rutgers University Newark called Express Newark, which is at the historic Haynes Building, downtown Newark. You may have seen the construction takeover of Broad Street and Halsey. Well, today you can get up close with what's going on at Express Newark only on Blab today at 4 o'clock. So I hope to see you there so you can learn more and tell everybody else that you know what's going on inside that building because you were on Blab today at 4 o'clock.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We will compile all this good, great information that we talked about, and we will be sharing that with you as well. And I want to thank you for your time and your commitment to equitable revitalization of Newark. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Karen. This was great.
Thanks. Now we have to sign out.